I stood alone by my 5-year-old son Jackson's tiny dinosaur-themed casket, my phone clutched in my trembling hand. The text from my wife Sarah glowed mockingly. "Sorry, important business meeting running long. Start without me." Business meeting. In Hawaii. While our son was being buried. I remembered Jackson's laughter, his dinosaur obsession, his brave smile through chemo. The leukemia took him too soon. Sarah claimed her trip was unavoidable, career-defining. But I discovered the truth. The business partner had a name, Alex, and a reservation at a beachfront suite with my wife. Before I tell you what my wife doesn't know and how I turned this betrayal into my greatest strength, let me know where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe to support a father who had to bury his son alone. I am Trent Williams, 34 years old, a software engineer from Boston. 7 years ago, I married Sarah Johnson, a brilliant and ambitious marketing executive. We met at my college roommate's wedding. I was the best man she was, the maid of honor, and we bonded over our mutual discomfort with the mandatory choreographed dance the wedding party had to perform. Sarah was captivating that night, her laughter infectious, as we purposely messed up steps to make each other laugh. After the wedding, we dated for 2 years before I proposed on a weekend trip to Cape Cod, our favorite getaway spot. From the beginning, Sarah was career-focused, determined to become a marketing director before 30. I admired her drive and supported her ambitions. We agreed to wait a few years before having children, giving her time to establish herself professionally. I was content developing software for a healthcare company, finding fulfillment in creating systems that helped medical professionals track patient care more effectively. My job allowed flexibility that would later prove crucial. 5 years into our marriage, we felt ready to start our family. Jackson came into our lives 9 months later. A perfect 7-pound baby boy, with Sarah's blue eyes and my curly brown hair. Holding him for the first time, I experienced a love so powerful it physically hurt. Sarah seemed equally smitten, though she returned to work after 3 months, eager to maintain her career momentum. I adjusted my schedule to work from home 2 days a week, balancing childcare responsibilities. The first 4 years of Jackson's life were the happiest of mine. He grew into a bright, curious child, with an obsessive love for anything dinosaur-related. He could pronounce Pachycephalosaurus perfectly by age 3, but struggled with saying spaghetti. Our home in suburban Newton, filled with plastic dinosaurs, dinosaur books, dinosaur sheets, and countless crayon drawings of our family standing beside friendly T-Rexes. We established little family traditions: Saturday morning pancakes, shaped like dinosaurs, Sunday afternoon nature walks, where Jackson would pretend to discover fossils, and bedtime stories, where I would create elaborate adventures, featuring Jackson the paleontologist. Sarah would often be working during these moments, but would try to join when she could. Looking back, I see how she was already slipping away, but at the time I made excuses for her absences. The strain in our marriage began subtly about a year before Jackson's diagnosis. Sarah received a significant promotion, which came with increased responsibilities and travel requirements. Suddenly, she was flying to Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles 2 or 3 times a month for client meetings that could never be rescheduled. I became accustomed to solo parenting for days at a time, fielding Jackson's questions about when mommy would be home. We argued about work-life balance. I suggested she request fewer travel assignments until Jackson was older. These conversations always ended the same way, with Sarah insisting this was a crucial period in her career and promising things would calm down after the next big project. I suggested marriage counseling 6 months before Jackson got sick. Sarah agreed, but rescheduled our appointments 3 times until I stopped trying. Then came the day that divided my life into before and after. Jackson had been unusually tired for weeks, with unexplained bruises appearing on his little legs. Sarah dismissed my concerns, saying all kids get bruises, and he was probably having a growth spurt. But my instincts screamed something was wrong, so I took a day off work and brought him to our pediatrician, while Sarah was in Seattle for meetings. "Doctor, Martin examined Jackson carefully, her expression growing increasingly concerned. She ordered immediate blood tests. By evening, we were sitting in an oncologist's office at Boston Children's Hospital, hearing words, "No parent should ever hear acute lymphoblastic leukemia." Jackson, just 5 years old, had cancer. I called Sarah immediately. To her credit, she flew home that night. She cried when she saw Jackson in his hospital bed surrounded by machines and monitors, looking suddenly small and fragile. For a brief moment, I thought maybe this crisis would bring us back together, reminding us of what truly mattered. The next 6 months revolved around Jackson's treatment plan. I took a leave of absence from work to manage his care full-time. Sarah continued working but reduced her travel temporarily. She seemed present physically, though emotionally she remained distant, constantly checking emails during hospital stays, stepping into hallways for urgent calls that would leave her makeup smudged when she returned. Jackson was incredibly brave through it all. He named his IV pole Rex and his port Dino Spot. He made the nurses laugh with his dinosaur facts and maintained his bright spirit despite losing his hair and enduring painful procedures. After 4 months of aggressive treatment, we received hopeful news. The cancer was in remission. We celebrated with a small dinosaur-themed party in our backyard. Sarah seemed genuinely happy that day, playing with Jackson and fully engaged. I remember watching them chase each other around the yard, thinking maybe we had turned a corner in more ways than one. It was a brief period of joy before everything fell apart. 2 months after his remission party, Jackson developed a persistent fever. Tests confirmed our worst nightmare. The cancer had returned more aggressive than before. The doctors spoke in hushed tones about bone marrow transplants and experimental treatments. Their faces told me what their words did not. Time was running out for my little boy. As Jackson's condition deteriorated, our hospital stays lengthened from days to weeks. The pediatric oncology unit became our second home, its beeping monitors and antiseptic smell as familiar as our own house. Through it all, Jackson maintained his fascination with dinosaurs, now comparing himself to them. Dinosaurs were strong, right, Dad? And they fought big battles. I am like a dinosaur. His wisdom in such a tiny body broke my heart daily. While I practically lived at the hospital, Sarah began working late with alarming frequency. Some nights she would not come to the hospital at all, claiming deadlines and client emergencies. When she did visit, she seemed distracted, constantly checking her phone, stepping out for calls. Jackson would ask for her during painful procedures, and I would make excuses, protecting her image in his eyes, while my own view of her was crumbling. My suspicions grew as Sarah's behavior became increasingly secretive. She bought new clothes, changed her hairstyle, joined an expensive gym. Our joint credit card showed charges at restaurants I had never heard of on evenings she claimed to be working. Once I found a receipt for 2 glasses of wine and 2 entrees from a romantic bistro downtown in her coat pocket. When confronted, she claimed she was entertaining a client. 2 weeks before Jackson died, Sarah announced she needed to attend a crucial business conference in Hawaii. The timing coincided with a planned intensification of Jackson's treatment, a last desperate attempt to fight the cancer that was consuming his little body. "You cannot go now," I pleaded, as we stood in the hospital corridor outside Jackson's room. "He needs both of us here. The doctors say this treatment is his last chance." Sarah avoided my eyes, her fingers tapping restlessly on her phone screen. "This conference is career-defining, Trent. The company is restructuring, and I need to secure my position. I will only be gone 4 days." "What about your position as Jackson's mother?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Does that not matter anymore?" She finally looked at me, her expression hardening. "That is unfair. I'm trying to maintain our financial security. Someone needs to think about our future." "What future?" I whispered, too devastated to shout. "Our son is dying, Sarah." She left for Hawaii anyway, promising to call Jackson every day and return immediately if his condition worsened. She kept neither promise. The truth about Sarah's business trip came to light accidentally through Jessica. a kind-hearted nurse who had been caring for Jackson throughout his illness. 2 days after Sarah's departure, Jessica mentioned seeing Sarah at La Mer, an upscale restaurant downtown. Your wife and her boyfriend seemed so engrossed in conversation, they did not even notice me, Jessica said casually, assuming I knew. When she saw my expression, her hand flew to her mouth. Oh God, I thought you knew. I am so sorry, Trent. My world shattered as I sat beside Jackson's hospital bed watching him sleep fitfully connected to countless tubes and monitors. Everything suddenly made horrible sense. The late nights, the weekend trips, the secretive phone calls. I called Sarah immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Who is he? I asked. When she answered, there was a long pause before she attempted denials, claiming Jessica was mistaken, that she had been with a male colleague discussing work. Her lies sounded hollow even to herself. When I pressed mentioning specific dates and times she had been unaccounted for, she finally fell silent. We can discuss this when I return, she said eventually. This is not something to handle over the phone. Like your son's cancer, I responded bitterly. Come home now, Sarah. Jackson is asking for you. I cannot just leave in the middle of this conference. She replied, the sounds of waves and laughter in the background, belying her professional commitment excuse. I will be home in 3 days as planned. The next morning, Jackson's oncologist pulled me aside. His body is not responding to treatment, Dr. Kaplan explained gently. The cancer is advancing rapidly. I think we need to discuss comfort care at this point. I spent hours trying to reach Sarah, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. The doctors say he does not have much time left. Please come home. Your son needs to see you. Jackson's condition declined rapidly over the next 48 hours. His breathing became labored, his pain more difficult to control. His once endless dinosaur chatter gave way to simple requests. Water, please. And stay with me, Dad. Most heartbreakingly, when is Mommy coming? I called Sarah repeatedly throughout this time. Most calls went to voicemail. When she did answer, ambient noise suggested she was anywhere but a conference room. She promised to try finding an earlier flight, but never confirmed any new arrangements. On what would be Jackson's final night, I sat beside him holding his small hand as he drifted in and out of consciousness. His dinosaur collection surrounded him, positioned just as he wanted them. The strong ones protect me, he had whispered earlier. At 3:17 a.m., Jackson opened his eyes, suddenly clear and focused. Dad, he said with surprising strength. The dinosaurs did not really disappear. They just changed into something else, like birds. Then he smiled peacefully and closed his eyes for the last time. The flatline sound of the heart monitor echoed through the room as medical staff rushed in. I stood frozen, watching them confirm what I already knew. My beautiful boy was gone. Through my fog of grief, I tried Sarah one more time. The call went straight to voicemail. 30 minutes later, a text appeared. In important meetings. Call later. My 5-year-old son had died, and his mother was unavailable. The days following Jackson's death passed in a blur of unbearable grief and logistical necessities. The funeral home, the cemetery plot, the obituary. Decisions no parent should face, especially not alone. I chose a small, dinosaur-themed casket that Jackson would have loved, with stegosaurus plates running along its lid. The funeral director looked surprised but kindly accommodated my request to place dinosaur stickers inside. Sarah's parents arrived from Philadelphia the day after Jackson died, shocked to learn their daughter was in Hawaii. Margaret and Thomas had always been wonderful grandparents to Jackson, visiting often and genuinely involved in his life. Their confusion turned to anger when they realized the truth about their daughter's absence. We raised her better than this, Margaret said through tears, as she helped me pick out clothes for Jackson to wear in his casket. We settled on his favorite dinosaur t-shirt and comfortable pants, wanting him to look like himself, not some formal version he never was. Friends from our neighborhood and my workplace rallied around me, bringing food that went untouched, offering help with arrangements, and simply sitting with me during the endless hollow nights. Sarah's colleagues from work seemed genuinely surprised by her absence, confirming my suspicion that her mandatory conference was fabricated. Sarah called briefly each day, conversations filled with hollow excuses and vague promises to return soon. She claimed her flight was the next day, then reported delays due to overbooking, then weather problems. Each explanation sounded less convincing than the last. The morning of the funeral arrived, gray and rainy, fitting the heaviness in my heart. As I put on the suit I had worn to so many happy occasions in the past, my phone chimed with a text from Sarah: delayed flight. Might not make it in time. Start without me. So sorry. I stared at the message, numb to what should have been outrage. How could a mother miss her child's funeral? What business could possibly justify such an absence? I had no more tears left for Sarah's betrayals, having spent them all on the greater loss of my son. Margaret entered my bedroom, her face tight with anger, as she held out the family tablet. You need to see this, Trent. She had discovered Sarah's Instagram account still logged in on our shared device. There, posted 3 hours earlier, was a photo of Sarah on a sunlit beach laughing beside a tanned man with his arm around her waist. The geotag showed Grand Wailea Resort, Maui. The caption read, "New beginnings. Everyone deserves happiness." The timestamp showed it had been posted that very morning as I was preparing to bury our son. The weight of this dual betrayal crushed what remained of my composure. I collapsed onto Jackson's bed, surrounded by his dinosaur collection, and broke completely. The grief for my son and the death of my marriage converged into a pain so absolute I could not breathe through it. Margaret held me as I sobbed, my body shaking with the force of emotions too massive to contain. Somehow I pulled myself together for Jackson's sake. I would not let his memory be tainted by drama on this day. When well-meaning friends asked about Sarah's absence at the service, I simply said, she could not make it back in time, protecting a woman who deserved no such loyalty. The funeral service was small, but beautiful. Jackson's kindergarten classmates brought drawings of dinosaurs to place on his casket. His favorite stuffed triceratops sat atop the flowers. Through some reserve of strength I did not know I possessed, I delivered a eulogy about my dinosaur-loving boy, who taught me more about courage in 5 years than most learn in a lifetime. Throughout it all, I was acutely aware of the empty chair beside me where Sarah should have been. At the reception afterward, questions about Sarah's absence became increasingly difficult to deflect. Her best friend Amanda pulled me aside, eyes red from crying. I suspected something was happening with Sarah, she confessed quietly. I saw her with someone at a restaurant several months ago. She claimed he was a client, but they were not discussing business. I should have told you. I am so sorry, Trent. After everyone left, I sat alone in our house, surrounded by Jackson's things and evidence of a family that no longer existed. My phone buzzed with another text from Sarah, boarding now. We'll be home tomorrow. We will get through this together. Something inside me hardened into resolve. I spent the next several hours searching through Sarah's desk emails and credit card statements. The evidence was abundant once I looked for it. Photos, hotel receipts, text messages she had forgotten to delete. The affair with Alex, a pharmaceutical sales rep she had met at a conference, had started over a year ago during the early days of Jackson's illness. They had been together numerous times, including several weekends when she claimed to be at business meetings, some even coinciding with Jackson's treatments. When Sarah finally called that evening, I was ready. The funeral was beautiful, I said, my voice calm and detached. Jackson would have loved the dinosaur drawings his friends made. I am devastated. I could not be there, she replied, her voice breaking in what sounded like practiced emotion. These flight issues have been a nightmare. But I will be home tomorrow, and we can start healing together. Like you were together with Alex at the Grand Wailea this morning, I asked quietly. The silence stretched for several seconds before she attempted denial. What are you talking about? I have been at the conference center all day. Stop lying, Sarah. I saw the Instagram post. I found the hotel reservations, the flights booked months ago. I know everything." Her sobs came through the phone, but they sounded different now that I could recognize their inauthenticity. "It just happened," she claimed. "I was so stressed with Jackson's illness, I needed support." My voice finally broke with emotion. "While I was holding our dying son, you were seeking support in another man's bed. While I was choosing a casket, you were choosing cocktails on the beach." "Trent, please," she begged. "Alex understands me. He knows what I need. But we can work through this when I get home. We have both been through so much. No, Sarah. You do not get to equate your experience with mine. I was there every day, every treatment, every nightmare. You checked out long before Jackson died, and now you have a choice to make. You can come home to divorce papers and a locked house, or you can stay away and I will have them mailed to you. Either way, our marriage is as dead as the son you abandoned." Her stunned silence was the only genuine reaction I had heard from her in months. "You cannot mean that. This is our home, our life." "No," I replied with finality. "This was Jackson's home, and now it is mine. You forfeited any claim to it when you chose Hawaii over his funeral." Before she could respond, I ended the call and turned off my phone, experiencing the first moment of clarity since my world had collapsed. The following morning, I channeled my grief into action. I contacted a locksmith to change all the locks and security codes. By afternoon, I had met with Diana Chen, a formidable divorce attorney recommended by a friend. She listened to my story with professional composure that only broke once when I showed her the Instagram post time-stamped during Jackson's funeral. "The courts take a dim view of abandonment during family medical crises," Diana explained. "Combined with evidence of infidelity and her absence from your son's funeral, we have a strong case for an advantageous settlement." Sarah's parents surprisingly stood firmly with me. "We love our daughter, but we cannot condone what she has done." Thomas said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "We will testify if needed about her absence during Jackson's illness and funeral." 3 days later, Sarah returned to find herself locked out of our home. When she called raging about her rights and belongings, I directed her to Diana's office, where divorce papers awaited her signature. Her indignation quickly turned to panic as she realized the seriousness of the situation. "You cannot just throw away 7 years of marriage," she insisted. When she showed up at the house that evening, mascara streaking down her face. "I did not throw it away," I replied, through the door chain. "You did one missed chemo appointment at a time. One business trip at a time. One lie at a time. Please," she begged. "I made a terrible mistake. I lost myself when Jackson got sick. I could not handle watching him suffer. Alex was just an escape. And now I need to escape you," I said simply. "Your things will be packed and stored." Access arrangements through the attorney. The divorce process proved surprisingly straightforward, despite Sarah's initial attempts to claim half of everything. The evidence of her abandonment during Jackson's illness proved decisive. Text messages showing her refusal to return for emergency treatments, testimony from hospital staff about her prolonged absences, and ultimately the damning social media posts during our son's funeral swayed even the most impartial judge. In the courtroom, Judge Watkins did not mince words, "Mrs. Williams. This court has seen many divorces stemming from the tragic loss of a child. The strain often proves too much for marriages. However, I have rarely encountered a parent who chose a romantic getaway over their child's funeral. Your behavior reflects an abandonment of basic parental duty that this court cannot overlook." The final decree granted me full ownership of our family home and the majority of our assets. Sarah received only her personal belongings and a small portion of our savings, much of which went to her lawyer. Her relationship with Alex dissolved shortly afterward, once the reality of her diminished financial circumstances became apparent. The months following the divorce were a blur of profound grief and slow healing. I created a memorial garden in our backyard, featuring dinosaur sculptures and Jackson's favorite flowers. I joined a support group for parents who had lost children to cancer, finding solace in the company of others who understood the particular anguish of watching a child suffer. 6 months after Jackson's death, I established the Jackson Williams Foundation for Pediatric Cancer Research. I used a significant portion of the divorce settlement to fund research specifically targeting aggressive forms of childhood leukemia. The foundation also provided support services for parents spending long hours in hospital rooms, including meals, comfortable sleeping arrangements, and childcare for siblings. I began volunteering at Boston Children's Hospital, the place where Jackson had spent so much of his short life. At first, it was painful to walk those familiar corridors, but gradually helping other children and parents navigate the terrifying world of pediatric cancer became therapeutic. I organized dinosaur-themed activity days and created a library of dinosaur books for the oncology floor, keeping Jackson's spirit alive through bringing joy to children fighting similar battles. Through this work, I met Andrea, a child life specialist who had actually worked with Jackson during his treatments. She remembered his dinosaur facts and his courage. Our friendship grew slowly, respectfully acknowledging the grief that still occupied much of my heart. She understood in ways others could not, never rushing me or expecting me to move on from losing Jackson. 1 year after Jackson's death, I stood in his memorial garden reflecting on how completely my life had transformed. The loss of my son created a void that would never be filled, but around that void I had built something meaningful. I understood now that while the deepest loss had revealed Sarah's true character, it had also revealed strengths in myself I never knew existed. I realized that forgiveness was not something I owed Sarah, but rather something I needed to give myself. Forgiveness for not seeing the signs earlier, for not somehow saving Jackson, for the times I felt relief amid grief. That forgiveness became the foundation for building a life that honored my son while allowing me to continue living. Jackson would be 6 years old now, probably obsessed with some new dinosaur, or perhaps moved on to rockets or oceans. I would never know. But I did know that in his 5 short years, he taught me more about living fully than most learn in a lifetime. His courage, through pain, his curiosity, despite limitations, his capacity for joy, in the darkest times, these were his legacy to me. Today I can say something I could not have imagined. In those early days of loss, I am finding my way toward happiness again. Not the same happiness I knew before, but a deeper, more profound appreciation for life's fragile beauty. Sometimes those who should stay leave, and that reveals who was truly there all along. The friends who brought silent, support the nurses who remembered Jackson's favorite dinosaurs, the parents from support group, who simply nodded in understanding when words failed. I do not know what tomorrow brings, but I carried Jackson's courage with me. His favorite dinosaur was the Ankylosaurus, armored but peaceful, resilient, and strong. In my darkest moments, I try to be like that too. Protected but not closed off. Strong but still gentle. Moving forward while carrying the weight of the past. Have you ever faced a betrayal that revealed unexpected strength within you? How did you transform your deepest pain into purpose? Share your story in the comments below. If this journey resonated with you, please subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and transformation. Like and share with someone who might need to hear that even after unimaginable loss, healing is possible. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, sometimes our greatest growth comes from our deepest wounds.